Yo, so today, part of many days, we're going to be working on rebuilding a Datsun l28 engine, and we're going to go through the whole complete process of boring, decking, polishing the crank, rebuilding the cylinder head, and getting it all ready. So right now I pulled out all the freeze plugs, I got the block washed, I honed the cylinders. That way they're ready for the boring bar to go in, get a nice straight bore. Pulling out the freeze plugs, it's pretty straightforward. You would just hit it on either side, get the freeze plug from flat to an angle, and then you can pull it out. The front one's a little bit more of a hassle because the cylinder wall is really close to the freeze plug, so it doesn't have that much angle to flip. You would want to replace the freeze plugs, or at least pull them out before you do any of the machine work on the block, because when you're hitting the freeze plugs, there's a chance that you can dent the cylinder. Not very much, but if you already have the stable bore, you have it honed, ready for pistons, you don't want to put any type of dent, you know, that's 1/1000ths, 2/1000ths. You would barely even feel it too if you were to run your hand in it. So it's just take the time, get it clean, get the top clean so that way the boring bar sits nice and flat on top. And definitely you would want to wash it, or have a machine shop wash in their cabinet, spray cabinet. That way none of the chips from when you're boring it go into there and start sticking. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to get the boring bar set up. This is our anchor. This is how we attach our boring bar to our block. This anchor has a little lip right here, and that's going to go onto the main, and it's going to pull up. This size, you're going to tighten it, and it's going to go against the mains as well. And then there's a little lever that locks into this, and that's going to bolt down our boring bar onto our block. What we'll do is gotta be careful because it's not bolted down yet. We're going to put the boring bar about halfway. So we're going to put it about halfway down into the cylinder. We're going to come to right here where it says expand. Alright, let's contract, that's expand. So we're going to turn it. And what we'll also do is we'll move it a little bit. Turn it again, make sure, see how it gave a little bit. You can even go up and down a little bit with it. Let's see if it turns a little bit more. No. So what that means is our cat's paws are against the cylinder, and this boring bar is now perfectly centered into the cylinder, ready to get bolted down. So now we got it bolted down. We got a little sandwich plate, anchor plate going on. We're gonna just twist this until it locks, anchoring down to the block. You don't want to over tighten it, but you don't want to leave it loose. If it's loose and you're cutting the board 30 over, 20 over, it might just come off to the side, and then what it's going to do, it's going to dig into the side of the cylinder. So it's always good to check and recheck this part. Always check and recheck. Alrighty, so we're going to begin setting up our cat's paw. We're going to bore this cylinder to 87 millimeter, but we're going to do it in two cuts. So our first cut is going to be 30 over at 86.75, or in inches it's going to be 3.415. So we're going to set it up to roughly about 3.415, Let's see if I can get. Sorry guys, a little bit shaky. And that's as close as it's gonna get. Okay, so yeah, so we're right there. We're a little bit under. We're about 3.41413, but it doesn't matter because we're gonna do the second cut, which is gonna be about 10 thousandths. So we're gonna set this up now into the machine. So before I put the cat's paw in, I like to make sure that this is clean. There's a little galley right here. You don't want any little chips in there, because what's going to happen is that's going to push that out more, and you're going to overbore. So I do this before every bore. I make sure that this is clean in the inside, because it's not worth overboring. So now we're going to be doing our final checks. Whoa. So now we're going to be doing our final checks. It's always good practice to make sure that your measurements are right. And after you've been machining for a while, you know what 30 thousandths bore is going to look like. It's not going to be 30 thousandths on each side. You have to remember that it's cut in diameter. So the total amount taken off is going to be 30 thousandths. But you're going to be taking off 15 off of each side. So as you can see, that looks pretty much just a nick off. It's about thickness of 2 sheets of paper or 3 sheets of paper. So I'm happy with that. What I also like to do is spin it. So we checked on one end. Now we're going to check another end. Yep. So now I know that my boring bar is pretty much centered into the bore. And we're going to begin our process. One last thing I want to do is make sure this is tight. Okay, nice and tight. I'm going to take that off. Since I'm going to be doing a 30,000 cut, I'm going to want to rotate this to low. So now I got that set up. Also, I want to spin this a little bit on top. So you need to make sure that this is all the way in gear. Okay, sounds about right. Nope, we're not in gear. So that's on high. Let me get this to engage low. Okay. Now we're in low. My boring bars, as you can see, it's been through many bores, but it is a very accurate tool. I love it. And what we're going to do is make sure it's properly lubricated all the way around. Throw some spray up there, throw some spray up top. And now we can begin the boring process. So with this, to engage the automatic system, you're going to push this collar in, which will start to drop the boring bar into the cylinder. And since it's on low, it's going to go a little bit slow. I always keep my finger on the off switch just in case the boring bar does come loose. But as you can hear, it's actually going, it's cutting very nicely. We're going to just let that go. We got a nice even cutting sound. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to sharpen our cat's paw. These kits, they come with the sharpening block, and as you can see they're numbered, so 1, 2, 3, and that's the process you go about sharpening these your carbide ends. So we're going to turn on our machine. And then the way that I like to do it is I like to always have, so this is the front, I always like to have the stone spinning this way, and what that does is that makes the burrs go out this way, giving you a cleaner cut. If the burrs go this way, it's a little bit more rounded, and you have all these micro burrs on this edge that are going to give you a nice clean cut. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to set it up, and we're going to bore the second cylinder. So we go ahead and started. So now we're about 5 thousandths. Okay, so we did about 3 passes with our 80 grit stone. We're going to check our diameter. So right now we're at about 2 thousandths. We're about 2 thousandths under. So for this bore already, we're going to leave it. And we're going to move on to the 6 with this stone. Once we get all these about the same, 2 thousandths under, we're going to switch stones to a finer stone to get rid of this really rough crosshatch. And then from there we're just going to keep working our way down, or working our way up the grit numbers. I got the first bore finished. As you can see, it's a lot smoother than this bore, because we already ran 3 different stones on this bore, and then we're actually at our finished bore size. So what we'll do is we'll check it up. We're at 0, 0, 0. So we're basically right exactly at 87 millimeters. And we're going to continue this process with all the other bores. We honed all our cylinders. One final check that we're going to do is we're going to make sure that everything's at 89. We use the outside edge. Still good. The only thing you got to be worried about when you're using this outside edge and you're going into the bore is that you don't go crooked. Try to keep it as straight as possible, and you try to keep it in the center, because if you go too far either way, it's not going to be in the center. So just find the center of the bore, wiggle it, and then just guide it down.